Student-teacher interaction is a constant part of any school day. But in today's day and age, social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter are changing the nature of that relationship and breaking down barriers between teachers and students as many students and teachers become friends online. Welcome to Heads Up and welcome to a brand new week where we discuss: should students and teachers be allowed to be friends with each other on social media? Should they be allowed to interact outside the classroom? That's what we're discussing on the show today. To join us in this discussion, there's Surbhi Kak to my left, who believes that teachers and students should be allowed to interact, and Riya Chibbar, who believes that they should not. Surbhi, we'll start with you. Why do you think that teachers should be allowed to interact with students?
Yeah, well, I would like to start by saying that the student-teacher relationship has been evolving over the years. How media, the kind of influence that media has today on the lives of students as well as the teachers altogether has a lot of influence. Thereby, I would like to go on further by saying and asking you a question, a very easy and simple question, that don't we accept the friend requests of our parents or families as such? And what the role of our families or our parents in our lives is to mentor us, okay, to further propagate, to further commemorate in us the values, as we are talking in the Indian context here, so that we as such become good individuals. And seeing that social media is such an influential power today, so why can't the teachers do the same thing, coming on the social media and interacting with the kids? So that is why I am for this.
Riya, she's saying that you can't escape social media. We're friends with our parents. Some of us are friends with our parents on Facebook. And so why not teachers? What is your response?
See, my whole point is there's a lot of subjectivity attached to the use of social media websites. Now, not all would be comfortable sharing their intimate pictures or sharing their intimate, the way what they post on the social media with their teachers. And in fact, as you yourself are mentioning that many are not friends with their parents on Facebook, you might not be comfortable sharing anything in that space. And I think there's, when Surbhi mentions about parents being mentors and authority figures, I'd further take that point to the whole point of a student-teacher relationship, or in the Indian context as it's mentioned, the guru-shishya relationship. Now there's a lot of sacredness, there's a lot of formality as such that's attached to this relationship, which is very different from the relationship that we share with our parents and that we share with our family members. It's essentially to do with the educator and the authority figure that the teacher is and the student. So now when this entire concept as per Surbhi is evolving, I don't think that we need to take this relationship to only the social media platform. Why is it that only the social media platform has to be the medium of interaction between the student and teacher? There are provisions of extra classes, there are provisions of a personal meeting that the child and the parents together can have with the teacher in schools. In college, this provision is absent, but that does not stop a child or a student from getting into contact with the teacher directly. Why social media?
Okay, valid point. She's saying that the teacher-student relationship is a traditional relationship of respect, and we shouldn't really take that online. And especially, I'd like to ask that, why would you want to take it online and outside the classroom? Why would you want to know private details about your student or your teacher?
Because it further propagates a stronger relationship amongst the students and children as well. As she said again and again, one of the words that Riya was mentioning in her speech as such was the authority figure. Then what I am mentioning here is how that is evolving over the years. One of the things that you will see students mentioning today in schools is that how their relationship with the teacher, who is a good propagator of facts as well, how she understands the students as well. As we know that here we are talking about the students ranging from the teenage years to college-going students who have a life outside their colleges and schools as such. And sometimes when life becomes hard and they don't have a lot of support, as we say, because one of the things in the teenage minds is that they don't have any support. So if the teachers as such come up and on the social media, as I said, which is a very instantaneous platform, as we have seen that if a student posts something online and the teacher notices it, so it gives a completely different, like the student might seem normal in school, but what's going inside his or her mind,
it shows a different side to the student.
It shows a different side to the student. So the teacher will be able to get a different perspective as such, and will also be able to further propagate as to what is going on with the student outside the school life, and will help to relate to him or her better. So that is what I am propagating here.
Yeah, your response to that. And also, what about those who say that social media is a very powerful educational resource and tool that teachers can actually use to take discussions that you cannot have in a classroom but take it onto a different platform and still encourage discussion and debate. What is your response to that?
First, I'd like to answer to the question of social media being an educational tool. Now, we must realize that not everybody has access to social media as an educational tool as well. Now, when you say that you're restricting the social media only to, say, Facebook, Twitter, or any other, even Gmail for that matter, something as small as this. Now, not every child, you can't, it's a very preposterous presumption, or it's a very generalized mindset that we have, that everybody has access to Facebook. So whatever the teacher is trying to say, or extra things that she might have not been able to cover up in the classes or the time slot that she has in the class, will be covered up in this a particular time frame. I don't think so that social media as such has accessibility to each and every individual. Obviously, what will a child do if he or she is not on Facebook or Twitter, but the teacher is then propagating only to a certain section of the class that she is? And I think the point that Surbhi was mentioning, that a teacher will get to know more about the student. I'd like to ask you, why would the teacher be interested in a student's virtual reality when we ourselves know that social media is supposedly a much more casual platform, wherein whatever is written or whatever is posted may not have a very a very formal or a very disciplined a very disciplined way of method of propagation, right? So I'd like to focus on three important things which are pillars of a student-teacher relationship: respect, fear, and discipline. Now, when you talk about a student-teacher interaction, the first thing is respect. Now, what happens is that when a social media platform is given to the student-teacher relationship, it might lead to the dropping of the image of a teacher as an authority figure, as an educator. Now, the very fact that a teacher is a friend on Facebook, I might just presume as a person, even if I have innocent of the most innocent of the ways of trying to be friends with my teacher, but I'll say, no, I have a way with her, I'm friends with her on Facebook. I'll start taking her casually. However, as a teacher, I have to take her seriously as well. Now, social media platform, I don't think that it will relate to that relationship in that manner. Second thing about fear and discipline. Now, we come across a lot of situations where teachers themselves mention that you should not get distracted by these social media platforms. You should rather focus on your own working or homeworks and everything. But when the student himself or herself sees that the teacher himself or herself is on a social media platform, then what authority does the teacher have to tell us of not being, wasting our time or being distracted by the social media platform?
Fair point. I'm going to give Surbhi a chance to respond, but before that, Ria, there's a lot of cyberbullying that's happening, especially in younger classes and maybe high school as well. There's a role of it if a teacher is on social media. Would it help if she could sort of monitor what's happening, see is there a page that's targeting a certain student? Does a teacher help in that way if she's on social media and friends with her students?
In some cases, it's again a very subjective thing. In some cases, it can be helpful. However, there is this provision of counselors at school, and there are other provisions of if a student generally has a problem, I would personally want to sit in a closed room with my teacher, or personally go and interact face to face rather than share everything on Facebook with her. Yes, I agree to your point that a teacher might use Facebook as a very effective tool in pointing out, identifying those gray areas which might influence the child in a wrong manner. However, that's not always the case. Again, even a teacher for that matter might end up
making the situation worse.
What if a teacher himself or herself? I'm not saying that I'm not degrading the teaching community, but I'll give you an example. In New Jersey,
we're running short on time, so we'll quickly wrap up and then take final comments.
In New Jersey, Facebook was shut down because in a school Facebook was shut down because apparently a teacher involved himself in a inappropriate sexual relationship outside the Facebook medium, and it was the medium of Facebook through which the teacher got into a personal contact of the student. Now, I know that these are exception cases, but these cases do arise. That is why there are laws. So it's to guard these exceptions, and that's why I feel it should not be.
Fair point. I'm going to take final comments. Sulbi, sort of sum up your argument for us quickly.
Yeah. So first, some rebuttals to her points. She lastly mentioned, Ria lastly mentioned about a point about New Jersey. Then I would like to mention, Ria, that here we are talking about the sanctity of the Indian teacher-student relationship, and as to what relating it to New Jersey is a completely, they have completely set a different set of values as such, and you cannot relate it to, as you yourself mentioned, the Guru-Shishya relationship that has been coming up upon in India for so many years. And also as to mentioning about the cyberbullying raised by you. Now, it is a very good point as to the teachers can monitor as to what is happening on the cyberbullying, because here we are talking about those children, because here we are talking about the targeted children who express themselves much more, because it is a proven fact that children resort to the social media as to come up with their emotional notions on social media better than what they do in personal interactions. So if a teacher
They feel more comfortable with the medium.
So they feel more comfortable. So if a teacher is his or her friend, is a student's friend, then she can actually see that the student is dealing with some problems, and if the teacher actually propagates it in a better manner and interacts with this child to further go to a counselor, so obviously it is a good thing. And also one of the things that I failed to mention till now is the content creator. Those children who are content creators but are shy in real life, and they can express themselves better through the social media, as we have been seeing through a lot many years.
That's a better way for them to connect with their teachers.
Not even the teachers, through
the students in the class. Fair point.
Like through videos, through YouTube channels, through their statuses as such. So interaction becomes much more easier for the kids, for the content creators who are shy in real life. So the teacher gets to know the other side of the child, and further investigate as to the child does have good qualities which don't come up in the class, and further encourage the child to come up with it.
Fair point. Ria, sum up your argument for us.
See, there are two things I'd like to mention. First is, I completely stand by the point that the professional and private life of a teacher as well as a student should remain separate. These two spheres should not be amalgamated, because it can lead to things that we think is inappropriate, or it might end up in a negative manner, which we do not want. Now, secondly, talking about this whole sanctity of the relationship, that Surbi also has conceded to the fact that there is a certain sanctity attached to this whole relationship. That's what I'm saying, that though we agree to the aspect that this is evolving, but I don't think that this is the right time or the right medium, social media, to take this relationship to another level. I think if you want a child who's not as vocal in a classroom, I think the teacher and student relationship should then be much more interactive. A lot of focus should be laid on making the classroom interaction much more interactive, so that the ones who are not that vocal, their communication skills develop, because ultimately when you go to the in this world of cutthroat competition, it's not your social media interactions with the teacher that is going to help you, but a communication skill that you develop.
Okay, ladies, thank you very much. I think you both put across your points very eloquently. This, of course, is a debate that's not going to end anytime soon. There's a fine line between what is an appropriate relationship and what might lead to certain unwarranted or unwanted situations. That's a wrap for now. We're going to slip into a short break, but don't go away. We've got lots more coming right up.